Chapter 7. A Meal of Desperation. Yuan Ming stretched his limbs, testing the lingering soreness in his muscles. Though his wounds still ached when he moved, the pain had lessened significantly compared to the previous day. After some consideration, he decided against hunting beasts directly. Instead, he resolved to set traps. Perhaps he could catch small game like hares or field mice. Once he had eaten his fill and regained his strength, then he could risk facing larger prey. With that in mind, Yuan Ming began gathering sturdy vines and branches, scouting the area for suitable spots to place his traps. Hunting was not something he had much experience with, and his memories offered only vague impressions of how to construct them. He fashioned a few simple snares and triggers, though whether they would actually catch anything depended entirely on luck. While setting the traps, he also gathered some wild fruits. Among them were plump, purple-red fruits the size of apples, tiny crimson berries like pellets, and clusters of raspberry-like fruits covered in fine nodules, all tempting in their own way. Yuan Ming didn't recognize any of them, but the gnawing hunger in his belly left him no choice. He had hesitated before picking them, wary of poison, and had only selected those that showed signs of being eaten by animals. Back in his cave, he blocked the entrance with a thick root before cautiously picking up one of the smallest red berries and popping it into his mouth. A burst of sweet juice flooded his senses, and his eyes widened in surprise. After a moment, finding no ill effects, he devoured the rest. But the tiny berries did little to sat his hunger. Next, he tried the glossy, cherry-like fruits. The moment he bit into one, his face twisted in disgust. A numbing, sour tang filled his mouth, worse than chewing a handful of peppercorns. He spat out the remnants, his tongue tingling unpleasantly. Desperate to wash away the taste, he grabbed the largest fruit, the purple-red one resembling an apple, and took a bite. A sharp, citrus-like aroma filled his nose, followed by a strange, intoxicating sweetness that seemed to rush straight to his head. "This smells dangerous." Before he could react, his vision blurred. His body stiffened, and he toppled over like a felled tree. His tongue, now numb and useless, could barely form words. Hoi, sund? Darkness swallowed him. When Yuan Ming awoke, dusk had settled. The cave was dim, the last rays of sunlight unable to pierce its depths. He sat up, testing his limbs. Aside from a lingering stiffness, he felt no worse for wear. It was as if he had merely taken an unplanned nap. His stomach growled. "I can't keep doing this. If I don't get proper food soon, I won't be hunting beasts, I'll be the one hunted." Steeling himself, he left the cave and hurried back to the river. If fruits were unreliable, he would try his luck with the flesh-eating fish again. As he reached the bank, a chorus of bestial snarls erupted from the forest behind him. Instinct kicked in. He leapt straight up, grasping a low-hanging branch and swinging himself into the trees. Crouching among the leaves, he peered toward the commotion. Through the dense foliage, he spotted two wolves locked in combat, one gray, the other a mottled greenish hue. The green wolf moved strangely, its motions unnatural. Before Yuan Ming could ponder it further, the fight reached its brutal conclusion. Both wolves were grievously wounded, the gray one clamping its jaws around the green wolf's throat even as its own belly spilled onto the forest floor. "No need to hunt. Fortune favors me today." He needed their blood before it cooled. But just as he prepared to descend, the green wolf's body began to shrink. Its pelt split, revealing human limbs beneath. Yuan Ming froze. It was one of the savages, one who had donned a beast skin. Just as he had been forced to. A pang of sorrow struck him. His hesitation saved his life. From the undergrowth, a pack of hyenas surged forward, their mottled brown fur bristling as they tore into the corpses. One seized the dead savage's ankle, dragging him free from the wolf pelt. Within moments, the body was reduced to bones. Yuan Ming watched in grim silence, grateful he hadn't rushed in. Even a single hyena would have been deadly. A pack would have been his end. When the scavengers finally left, he climbed down, stepping carefully over the bloodied earth. Strangely, the metallic scent didn't revolt him. Instead, it stirred a faint hunger. Gathering the few remaining scraps of the grey wolf's flesh, he retreated to the trees to eat. The meat burned like fire in his veins, strength flooding back into his limbs. This is far better than fish or fruit. Before leaving, he buried the savage's bones, murmuring, "Earth to earth." He glanced at the discarded green wolf pelt but resisted the urge to take it. Unseen, atop the tallest tree, a figure observed his departure. Elder Huo bent down, lifting the pelt with a faint smirk. "This Central Plains brat has some spine." With that, he vanished into the shadows. Chapter 8. The Parasite. Third day, early morning. A white ape, its shoulder burdened with a bundle of bleached bones and a crude leather satchel slung across its back, moved like the wind through the dense forest. Each leap carried it nearly 30 feet, its powerful limbs propelling it effortlessly between the towering trees. This was Yuan Ming, retracing his steps from the day before. By midday, he arrived at the site of his previous encounter, the place where the black bear had ambushed him. Black bears were fiercely territorial, rarely straying far from their hunting grounds. And Yuan Ming had returned for precisely that reason. This time, the hunter becomes the hunted. Dismounting from the trees, Yuan Ming untied the bundle of grey wolf bones he had collected. Selecting a thick tibia, he dug into the soft forest soil, carving out a pit roughly 6 feet deep and 6 feet wide. At the bottom, he embedded sharpened ribs, each tip honed to a deadly point, angling them upward like a bed of spears. He covered the trap with a lattice of branches and scattered leaves, disguising it perfectly. Preparations complete, he strapped a wolf's shoulder blade to his chest as makeshift armor and gripped 2 sharpened tibias like short spears. Then, he waited. Hours passed with no sign of the bear. Growing impatient, Yuan Ming pricked his palm with one of the bone spears, smearing blood on nearby trees to lure his prey. The scent worked. A rustling in the undergrowth announced the bear's arrival. But something was wrong. The beast moved erratically, its breath ragged, its eyes clouded with an unnatural crimson haze. Poisoned. Injured. Yuan Ming stayed hidden, watching as the bear sniffed at the blood-smeared bark. It roared in frustration, its movements sluggish yet agitated. Then it stepped just beside the trap. Damn it. Yuan Ming acted. Swinging down from a vine, he launched himself feet first at the bear, slamming into its back with all his weight. The impact sent both of them stumbling, but the bear's hind foot landed just on the trap's edge, refusing to fall. Yuan Ming rebounded like a pendulum, swinging back toward the beast. This time, the bear swiped at him with claws like daggers. Yuan Ming hurled one of his bone spears. The weapon streaked through the air and buried itself in the bear's left eye. The beast howled, blood gushing from the wound. Seizing the moment, Yuan Ming kicked off again, slamming both feet into its chest. This time, the trap gave way. The bear crashed through the branches and leaves, landing squarely on the bed of spikes below. A sickening crunch echoed as bones pierced its limbs and torso. Victory. Or so he thought. When Yuan Ming peered into the pit, his blood ran cold. The bear was gone. Only scattered bones and bloodstains remained. Then a rush of wind at his back. Yuan Ming barely had time to turn before something hammered into his spine, sending him flying. He smashed into a tree trunk, pain exploding across his ribs. Gasping, he wiped blood from his split lip and looked up. And froze. Dangling from the branches above was a monster. The black bear's body hung suspended by thick, vine-like tendrils bursting from its wounds. Its chest had split open, ribs splayed like broken fingers, revealing a pulsing heart. But the most horrifying sight was its face. Where Yuan Ming's spear had pierced its eye, a grotesque red lotus now bloomed 6 fleshy petals surrounding a writhing mass of white filaments. Like a nest of squirming teeth. What the hell is this thing? The creature lashed out. A vine whipped through the air, striking Yuan Ming across the back before he could dodge. Fire seared his skin as blood welled from the wound. He bolted. But the vines were faster. One coiled around his ankle, yanking him off his feet. Another snaked around his torso, lifting him into the air like a trussed-up prey. Helpless, Yuan Ming was dragged toward the monstrosity. Up close, he realized with dawning horror that the bear was still alive. Its remaining eye rolled wildly, its jaws working soundlessly. Then its ribcage split wider. Inside, its heart throbbed, encased in a web of black tendrils. At its center pulsed a tumor-like mass, veins threading into the muscle like parasitic roots. The vines holding Yuan Ming loosened but only around his chest. A terrible understanding struck him. This thing wasn't going to eat him. It was going to move in. Chapter 9. The Blood Qi Method. Yuan Ming's eyes widened in horror as the black tumor pulsed violently, splitting apart into dozens of wriggling tendrils that slithered toward his exposed chest. No. Not like this. He would rather die than become this thing's next host. Struggling against the vines, he realized his arms were still free barely. With a desperate twist, he summoned the last of his strength and headbutted the bone spear still clutched in his hand. The weapon shot forward like an arrow, and plunged into the black bear's heart, mere inches from the pulsating tumor. The beast roared, its ribs freezing mid-clamp. The tendrils reaching for Yuan Ming spasmed, then went limp. A moment later, the bear's heart stopped. The tumor convulsed, its tendrils shriveling like burned threads. The monstrous lotus in the bear's eye socket withered into dust, and the vines binding Yuan Ming slackened. He collapsed to the ground, gasping. The poison. Yesterday's toxic berries, the ones he had smeared on his bone weapons, had saved him. The venom had seeped into the bear's heart, paralyzing the parasite at the last possible moment. With shaking hands, Yuan Ming scrambled to the bear's corpse. Time was running out. He sliced open the beast's throat with his bone spear, collecting the still warm blood into his leather pouch. Even drained completely, it only filled half the bag. It'll have to be enough. Hunger gnawed at him, but the thought of eating parasite-tainted meat turned his stomach. Instead, he gathered dry leaves and sticks, painstakingly rubbing them together until a spark caught. As the meat roasted, he examined the tumor. It had hardened into a fist-sized gray stone, lifeless and inert until a drop of bear blood splashed onto it. The stone twitched, its surface briefly reverting to fleshy black tendrils before drying up again. Fascinating. Wrapping it in leaves, he tucked the strange object away. By dusk, Yuan Ming reached the boundary stone. 2 others had already arrived, one a hulking tigerman, the other a boar-headed brute with blood-stained tusks. The 3 eyed each other warily, none speaking. Then wings beat overhead. Elder Huo descended on his giant eagle, the creature vanishing into a pouch at his waist with a flash of green light. "Show me your blood," the elder commanded. Each presented their pouches. When Huo sniffed Yuan Ming's, his brow furrowed. You killed a blood viniparasitized bear. Yuan Ming blinked. What? The elder didn't explain. Instead, he raised a finger, and white fire shot into their chests. Agony. Yuan Ming's skin burned as the white ape pelt fused to his flesh was forcibly ripped away. Fibers tearing from muscle and bone. He crumpled to his knees. Teeth gritted against the scream clawing up his throat. The others weren't as strong. They writhed, howling. When it ended, all three lay gasping, their bodies raw and bleeding. Discomfort is the price of power, Huo said dismissively. Now listen well, I will teach you the blood chi method. He recited an esoteric chant about fire from the earth's lungs and ascending embers. Each phrase layering meaning upon metaphor. To Yuan Ming's surprise, he understood instantly as if the words unlocked something in his mind. The other two struggled, begging for repetition. Huo sneered. Once more. No more. As the elder repeated the chant, Yuan Ming closed his eyes, feeling something stir in his veins. The first whisper of true cultivation. Here is the full retelling of the story in proper American English, keeping the immersive Xianxia style and adding any logical context where characters or actions may have been unclear. Chapter 10. Bitter Cultivation. Incomparable Struggle. This blood chi technique is a secret art passed down by the Bai Luo Cavern. Without permission from the sect, you are strictly forbidden to spread it outside. Any violation will be met with skinning, dismemberment, and soul extraction. Remember this well. After briefly explaining some precautions regarding cultivation, Elder Huo's tone shifted as he delivered his stern warning. Then, concealing the sharpness in his eyes, he pulled a small jade bottle from his robe and poured out 3 faintly purple pills, handing one each to the 3 before him. Yuan Ming accepted the pill without swallowing it, casting a sideways glance at the other 2. Elder Huo, what kind of pill is this? Asked the muscular man nicknamed Tiger Slave. This is the corroding heart pill unique to Bai Luo Cavern, Huo said evenly. Once consumed, it seeps into your heart veins. You'll need to take an antidote each month to suppress the poison. Without it, you die slowly. The tiger slave and the boar-like man, wild boar slave, visibly paled. Yuan Ming frowned as well. Bai Luo Cavern clearly intended to use the pill to control them slaves who had just barely passed their initiation trials. Still, under the sect's roof, one had to bow their head. Without further hesitation, Yuan Ming tilted his head back and swallowed the pill. It dissolved instantly, sending a wave of chilling cold into his organs. When it reached his heart, it lingered there like a frozen dagger pressed against it ready to stab at any moment. The other 2 hesitated but, under Elder Huo's cold gaze, they followed suit and swallowed their pills. You've passed the test and have now been granted the blood chi technique. From this moment, you're official beastskin slaves of Bai Luo Cavern. Each month, bring 5 vials of savage beast blood to this place, and you'll be given the antidote, the elder declared, apparently satisfied with their submission. Elder, Yuan Ming asked, what qualifies as a savage beast? A savage beast is one that has absorbed the essence of heaven and earth. Far more dangerous than the wild animals you've hunted so far. 10 li south of here lies a canyon on the far side of it. Within the forest, savage beasts dwell. But heed this. Without mastering the blood chi technique, none of you will return alive. Yuan Ming remained silent, his expression dark. Even just from the name, he could tell the blood chi technique was no simple matter. And even if he could master it and regain the strength granted by the beastskin art, he would only be back to the level he had during the trial where killing a single black bear had nearly cost him his life. He could see the truth clearly now. To Bai Luo Cavern, their lives meant nothing. What mattered was whether they could be used. The other two seemed to grasp this as well, their faces growing grim. Remember, Hu Huo said, watching them as if he'd seen through their thoughts. If you perform well, your future has potential. Take care of yourselves. Then, he tapped the bone ring at his waist. With a piercing screech, the massive gray eagle beside him took flight, lifting him into the sky. The air within a dozen feet turned turbulent like a gale, sending trees swaying and the three new disciples stumbling as they fought to stay on their feet. Oddly, the gust seemed to clear their heavy mood. This eagle's aura far exceeds that of normal beasts. It must be a savage beast itself, Yuan Ming thought. To think Bai Luo Cavern could tame such a creature. Its foundation must be far deeper than it appears. The tiger slave stepped forward with a cupped fist. Since fate has brought us together today, let us introduce ourselves. I'm Wu Lu. Yuan Ming, he replied, lifting his white ape skin as a gesture of respect. Call me Leger, said the wild boar slave with a snort. So, Brother Yuan Ming and Brother Leger, Wu Lu said, glancing at them both, you know well how fierce these beasts are. The Elder's mission is nearly impossible alone. He never said we had to work solo, why not join forces? A good idea. Leger's eyes lit up. Together, we have a real chance at slaying a savage beast. Hunting can wait, Wu Lu added. First, we need to find a secure place to cultivate the blood chi technique. We've lost our previous strength after the beastskin art was stripped from us. Without it, we won't survive long. Safety in numbers. Wise words, Brother Wu Lu, Leger nodded. What do you say, Brother Yuan Ming? Yuan Ming hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. I'm used to working alone. Apologies. Before they could respond, he turned and walked away. He had already scouted a safe cave to dwell in. More importantly, he didn't trust these two strangers. Staying together would mean living with one eye open, better to rely on himself. HMPH. Just like those arrogant Central Plains cultivators, always thinking they're above us. Still, passing the trial with just that useless white ape skin takes some skill. Leger muttered. Let him be. Everyone walks their own path. Come, Brother Leger. During my last hunts, I found a suitable place. With our cooperation, we'll make progress, Wu Lu said, lifting his beast skin and heading off. Meanwhile, Yuan Ming wrapped the ape skin around his waist, smeared his body in mud to conceal his scent, and cautiously made his way to the cave he had chosen earlier. At the slightest rustle of leaves, he would drop into hiding. Without the beastskin art or decent weapons, all he had was a crude spear technique hardly enough to fend off wild beasts. Fortunately, his luck held. Though he encountered several beasts, he managed to avoid them all. At last, he reached his cave safely. He dragged heavy stones to block the entrance, dimming the cave's interior until only thin rays of light pierced through. Only then did he finally relax. After wiping off the grime, Yuan Ming closed his eyes and recalled the blood chi technique's incantation, silently reviewing every word before beginning his first attempt at cultivation. He sat cross-legged, hands in the 5 hearts upward pose, just as Elder Hu Huo instructed, and began to chant the incantation. The fire within the earth's lungs rises from the hidden spring. It ascends to the belly, blazing like a torch. As he chanted, he suddenly felt warmth rising from the earth, flowing upward from the base of his spine. The warmth circled through his meridians before settling in his lower abdomen. Delighted, he focused on stabilizing that heat, but the moment he tried, it dissipated entirely. The warmth vanished as if it had never existed. What went wrong? Frowning, Yuan Ming reviewed his actions. He had followed every instruction precisely. And the chant was correct. He tried again. But the result was the same. He could sense the faint warmth in his lower abdomen. But it wouldn't stabilize. The energy gathered, then dispersed, vanishing without a trace. According to Elder Hu Huo, after a full cycle of qi circulation, he should have been able to sustain that heat in his dantian. Thank you for listening to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to support us and give us more motivation to upload new videos.